Welcome to Translating Infinity. This is the evolution of an experiencer series. I'm your host, Eileen Meyer, and I am an experiencer. Everything I've learned about evolving consciousness comes from an intelligence that has been interacting with me since childhood. I'm actually restarting a previous project, but under a new name. It was in 2014 that I began a series entitled Coming Out as a Contactee. Long story why I abandoned it. I feel this may be a better time for my vision to bring us together to talk about our radical changes in consciousness as a result of this phenomenon. And in the case of the lifetime experiencer, how we adapted to this kind of life with frequent disruptions in any kind of what others would refer to as a normal life development. Over time, a relationship matured with what some call angels, others call ETs or non-human intelligence. But I find that words and labels, and really language itself, can hold us back from utilizing more of our consciousness. This intelligence is energy, frequency that many of us were entrained to over time. A way of communion that is not based on thought, concepts, or ideas, but rather a whole brain or integrated heart-brain consciousness. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I am a musician and an artist, and I strongly relate to this communication as light, sound, or music. For lifetime experiencers, I found that over a cyclical path of disruption and integration, the attachment or a need to define this contact in terms of identity with certain beings or locations in the sky has diminished. What I'm discovering for myself and in communication with other people like myself is that over time, a deeper resonant connection with this non-local consciousness occurs. I notice that this unique voice or representation of an integrating experiencer has not been heard over the din of the communities who are invested in certain stories, frameworks, and dramatic opinions in the areas of ufology and the gazillion other ways that the unknown is framed by humans. I have no frame in which to even enter the argument, nor do I want one. I and many others have the direct experience which creates a frustrating level of invisibility in the world, simply because we are unable to reduce or translate infinity into existing boxes of the known world. But we're doing our best to communicate. Really, I'd rather just radiate this energy that was radiated to me. In these cosmic meetings, I did not need words and explanations. All understanding and related data came through the frequency itself. So what's an experiencer? To me, it's a very small word for that which is beyond words, but for several communities, it's an agreed-upon term. There's several experiencer modalities as outlined by the FREE organization. This is Dr. Edgar Mitchell's Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Encounters. I'll put a link to their website in the notes below. These modalities include contact via near-death experiences, out-of-body, UFO visitations, channeling, mystical meditation, remote viewing, lucid dreams, shamanic hallucinogenic experiences, and so on. Many experiencers have been connecting now via chat rooms online. This connection with my fellow experiencers has been so extraordinary for me that I reinitiated this original passion to bring experiencers together to talk about how they have been changed by these cosmic episodes, as well as, how do you manage in the everyday world with this direct knowing that there's so much more than what humanity was told? And how have you dealt with judgment? When will you feel it's time to fully come out to your community? Personally, I feel that time is now, but that's just me. And I'm extending invitations to other experiencers if they feel that it's their time for truth-telling. I wanted to create a platform where we can meet each other right where we are and not have to explain to the intellect in scientific or religious terms, but to simply speak one experiencer to the other. Now, I have great respect for those who are doing significant scientific research in these areas, like the free organization. But from the experiencer viewpoint, whether you define it or not, this is still happening. We must still live our lives with very little reflection or support from our outer world about what we have come to know about ourselves and humanity. The consensus and/or conditioned reality has been fed dark or fear-based narratives and just plain inaccurate data about what this very real phenomenon is about. For me, it's about direct experience and the transformation of consciousness. It's about recalling our natural state or our original design. This intelligence informed me many times that humanity is literally wired for this expansion into universal consciousness. And we have much to learn simply by listening to what the experiencer has learned about themselves through these encounters with higher vibrational intelligence. My guest for this episode was also a guest on my Contactee series 5 years ago, so I thought it fitting to reach out to her again for this first episode. Terry Andrews lives in Northern Oregon and is a lifetime contactee like myself. I'd like to refer you back to my first talk with Terry, and the link is also below. We are simply picking back up where we left off. We haven't spoken to each other in 5 years until this recorded conversation on February 1st, 2019. Terry was in the midst of a career as a journalist when transformation took her by surprise. She says on her website, terryandrews.org, "There I was, achieving goals I had set for myself, when along came a feeling that there must be more than this. And then my grandmother began communicating with me from the other side, showing up night after night after I went to bed and telling me about the mysterious world of spirit. Earlier in my life, I'd had a few pivotal experiences that I couldn't explain, as some of us do, the kinds of experiences that make us realize there's way more going on than we thought." Terry works with groups and in private sessions, and in her words, it's to discover the magnificence and love that lives within us once we have the courage to bring this radiance into our everyday waking moments. It's where we find our inherent creative power that we use to create our new world.
Just in my own journey, what I've noticed is it is a very solitary process. It requires a lot of time alone. So you're not having somebody to, necessarily bounce things off of or share with. And so one thing that keeps me going is having the internet and access to people online and seeing their comments and their posts about what they're experiencing. And just seeing the commonalities in that experience. That's been really, really useful for me.
Me too. I definitely relate to that. Otherwise, I think the excruciating pain throughout this life has just been the loneliness.
The loneliness, I know, and somebody was writing about that recently. I'm trying to remember. Somebody was describing that, and somebody else had just written about the fact that probably all of you have lost your buddy recently, and you really have nobody. And it's something I've wanted more clarity about, of why it does have to be solitary or lonely feeling, because it's so much easier when we are with somebody. But I kind of think, as I'm talking about it, that it's that the solitary time that really allows us to go deep and to access the things we need to access. And a lot of times we might not do that if there was somebody right there.
Yeah, spot on, Terry. And I agree with that as well. It's been, yeah, I can see the value in both.
Yeah, but I noticed even people in relationships don't get the time alone.
Yes. So it feels like I knew that we were just going to launch into this and and pick up where we left off. Basically, there's been 5 years time, but there's been no time
right
between our conversations.
Right.
I know that as an experiencer, I chose this. I definitely connect with that.
Yeah.
But the only, until recently, like in the past, 5 years since I did that last, it never even turned into a podcast. I don't, interviews or discussions with other experiencers. It's been, I noticed when I listened to my voice, I'd cringe, re-listening to our conversation, because I was so over the top excited to be talking to somebody like myself, that I was too much, and I
didn't think it felt like that at all.
Oh, well, see, I have the wounding around that from childhood. You're too much.
I didn't feel that with you. I felt you were fairly subdued, because I tend to get a little.
Isn't that funny? Our own self-perception.
Especially with this whole thing, it is very exciting to me. So I thought you were low key.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and just staying with that for a moment, just a review. I kind of want to hear your feelings and impressions overall too when you go back and listen to that recording 5 years ago. And we're going to get into more specifics about, what has changed since. But what stood out to you about yourself? What did you learn from listening to that recording?
I remember after I did it in 2014, I felt like, oh my gosh, I think I didn't sound, we want to sound good.
Yes.
And I felt some judgment without listening to it again. I felt some judgment about what I'd said or how it had sounded. Yeah. And so I hadn't heard it at all until you sent it to me just a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. Listened to it. I was kind of like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, right.
And I was very pleasantly surprised to think, oh my gosh, no, what I hear is somebody who's excited, she's being real, she's being true, all the very things that have led me into this whole process. I was living them and sharing about them. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I did notice that I would sometimes interrupt you because I do get excited.
Oh, I felt the same way about me. Like, oh Eileen, you're just squashing her. Just shut up, But because it is excitement,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, there I go again. But it was fun for me to go, wow, actually, and I've given up much of my self-judgment.
Wonderful.
And so I could just listen to it and go, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. It sounds it just was more than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. So I was happy.
Good. Yeah. That's a good feeling. I could also have, understanding towards myself. And seriously, it was all, you'd say something and then I'd be like, I
Yeah.
gotta say something because I don't get to talk about this. So I can understand and have compassion towards myself for that.
Mhm.
It's but I could definitely feel from, in my perspective towards, reviewing my 2014 self.
Mhm.
I could definitely still feel the pain. And I don't feel that pain so much anymore, of the
Good.
feeling alone and lonely.
Uh-huh.
And that's a nice shift into a different kind of tone that I feel now for
Mhm.
myself.
Okay.
Um, it's still challenging to be communication and translating to people and reaching into, and this is one specific thing I want to ask you about. So I'm jotting it down right now so I don't forget. Um, it hasn't been as I'm I'm not I'm nowhere near thinking or having thoughts about I wish I would just die,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was still present around that time.
Right.
Not I have to distinguish this from suicidal thoughts because
Mhm.
I don't. I mean, I remember, and I wrote about it in my book. I've since written a book,
Oh, yes,
Terry.
I saw that.
um, I, there was a time I was suicidal,
Right.
and that's when it went boom into the biggest Kundalini event that I had
Okay.
in my life, and but most of the time it's been begging this intelligence, this interdimensional
Right.
intelligence to just I
Right.
know we're a team, I know we're a group here, I get that. Can you please like relieve me of my duties now and take me
Yeah.
out of service because I'm
Yeah.
obviously not getting this. Have you ever felt that way?
Um, I've felt close to that. So I have a memory of having come here before,
Mm.
like around maybe 1200 years ago, where we also came to do this and we were unable to, and we left. We were just beamed up. So I remember that. So
Mm.
when it gets very, very intense with a lot of symptoms, ascension kind of symptoms where
Yeah.
you really, where your body is just taking a toll. I have had times where I've said, you know what? I could do that thing where I left.
Yeah.
Like I could just go and then let some other people start to do some of this work. I have said that, but then usually within about 3 minutes, I'm like, okay, cancel. Wait, wait. I want to like I've got a little over 20 years invested in this. I
Yes.
see it.
Yes, I relate.
I especially want to see it for the folks who are like, that's never going to happen.
Me too.
I
I so
know.
relate to everything you just said, except the only difference is I haven't come out of it in 3 minutes. So
Yeah,
that's
that's one thing I really enjoy now is I can remember back in my 30s or 20s, I'd get into like a funk
oh yeah,
and I would be there.
Y- yeah. And I'm talking an hour maybe for me now,
Okay.
but
But
yes, it's
everything is
yeah,
fluid. And
yeah.
I'll be in like a lower space for maybe 5 minutes. And then it's like,
Hmm.
it's a very fluid palette of emotions.
Right, and just staying conscious and in the present moment with
Right.
it. Yeah, instead of
Right.
bringing back what it resonates with from the past.
Yeah.
You know, whatever
Every
wounds.
time where I think, oh my gosh, I can't do this again. And I know January was a very tough month. I had a couple times where I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And then something really remarkable would happen. And I would go, oh, that's right.
Nice. Yeah.
A whole new way of being.
Yeah.
And there's just so much magic in it that when all that's happening, it's really fun.
Yes.
So I think, we just have to remind ourselves to stay in our power.
Yes.
Really no longer agree to all that old stuff that is so life draining, and it just sucks us down into it. Pretty much everything from the old world is just a big energy drainer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you while we were in this place, back in, there's just such a feeling of that was then and this is now, with energy. I feel a lot of times like, we already are in this new reality, and and that it's, just orienting to it, and from the perspective of an experiencer, it's I get this, the energy's different, here we go, and then we're still bridging to the old reality, or straddling to some degree, not as much as before.
Not as much. I mean, I feel like in the last week or two, we've really shifted.
Me too. Yeah.
And I have long felt that everything was going to get easier for us, and we would not have to do the heavy lifting. And I've started to have that happen.
Yeah.
And I had a really interesting thing just a couple days ago. And again, these are the things that I just love. So I went to have coffee with a friend. There's a place I go. I meet her once a week. And the fellow who works there, he gave up his career as an international banker because it was too stressful, and he makes coffee. So very nice fellow. Anyway, he said, oh, I met this woman. She's buying a house in your neighborhood. I said, oh, okay. And he said she wouldn't tell me where. She didn't want to jinx it. So later that day, I'm out for my walk. This woman drives up and she stops and she said, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. She said, I just bought a house here. I said, you know what? I already heard about you. And she said, what? And I told her at the coffee place, she goes, I was in there. Yes, I talked to that lovely man. And so she told me what she did, and I didn't mention a thing about what I do, except I said, she asked me what my political thing was, and I said, you know what? I'm not doing any of that because I'm creating a whole new
I love it.
earth.
Yeah.
So then I didn't tell her anything else. So this morning I had coffee again. We meet once a week there, and the fellow, I told him I'd met the woman, and he said, oh, better than that. After she met you, she came in here and she bought your book.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't even mention, so I didn't have to do anything.
Yes.
And that's how I think it's going to start to happen.
Yes. I'm already seeing evidence of that too. And just, also, just staying with it and trusting it and knowing this is real now. And what you said, and that was a lovely story about what you're describing. It's just a place that all these messages that I've been bringing through and recording since 2005 have been saying all of these things to me. They made no sense back then.
Right. We didn't have a context for understanding.
No context.
Yeah.
And now we're in it, and I'm just part of my big project here is I'm going to start pulling these messages out and sharing them with people on my through my Patreon page. And, it's like, yeah, it might have come in 2007, but it was talking about now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just, it's incredible. This sense of time and relativity and context, it's all completely fluid. Like you said, there's nothing hard and fast about this new dimension.
No, in fact, it's outside of time. It's outside of linear time that we've been, schooled in.
Right.
And, if you go back and look at Bringers of the Dawn written in the 80s, oh my gosh, she's writing about what we're going through.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I've noticed I get a lot of messages that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But I've learned to share them. Mm-hmm. And then the understanding comes.
Yes.
And in my class, I'll often say, here's what I got. I don't totally get this yet. And then within a period of, like a couple weeks or a month, then I'll understand it.
And okay, here's a question for you then. I understand it when it comes.
Okay.
I understand in the essence of it, in the knowing of it.
Yeah.
It's the translation part.
Oh yeah.
Where that gets the entirety of it is lost, because you're delivering it to mostly a linear mind or an audience that has been conditioned to be linear, so they're not in a position where they can feel the message.
Right.
Because of the conditioning that feelings are bad and they get in our way, and you need to just focus, all that crap, really. Yes, we need both. We need the linear mind, and we need the ego even. But there's a reorientation that I find that I'm having to, and I'm wondering about how you do this too, that I'm having to, I translate, and then I have to kind of educate that the way you perceive these messages is mostly on an energetic level, not with the words.
And that usually, if I talk about something, I always intend that it goes as energy as well as words, because the words are very limited.
Yes.
I've thought we're going to have to come up with lots of new words, just like they have lots of words for snow, mm-hmm. with certain people, or even in the Pacific Northwest, they have all kinds of different rain terminology. Mm-hmm. I really think we might have to come up with new words, because we don't have the words to describe some of what's happening. So when I do explain or talk about anything, I always send it as energy so that the person can receive it, mm-hmm. even if they don't totally know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is what we all have this opportunity to reorient to now, using more of our design, our original design, our operating system that has been, atrophied over all these centuries. And so part of my work, and I know your work too, is to just kind of help people reorient to these other ways of perceiving.
Right.
Which brings me to a question for you, or a discussion point that I just jotted down a few minutes ago. What I'm being shown in my connecting times and in, dreams, or however, a lot of different ways that this communion happens, is that what's with this recent bigger shift, which is definitely being done in stages or waves, is they showed me that my energy that I've been using to reach into and reach the intellect and use that language to convince or any of that kind of old energy of, please just listen to me. You don't understand. It's more than you think. It's, just kind of always feeling like, oh, that poor girl, she tries, but she just can't seem to make headway with explaining this.
Right.
And recently I felt oh, thank God, because they showed me that it is, all of the old systems, the religion and science and, all of the ways that we have framed data and information is now in need of what we have to share in order for the understanding to come. Yeah.
Exactly. It all has to be overhauled. Yeah. And I talk to people a lot about that. If whatever their field is, start that process within their own area.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing, for a while, I was trying to explain things to people very patiently. I would explain and they would listen and they would look at me and say, I have no idea what you just said.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I stopped. And what I started to do was just live it for myself.
Yeah.
And if they would say, what are you doing? I would say, oh, just hanging out in the new earth and la, la, la. Yeah. And they go, what? What is that? What do you? And usually I'll just give them a sentence or two and that's it, because every person is going to have to do the work.
Yes.
And they're going to have enough, of a little nudge of their own to kind of come and want to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of have come to this place where I feel like it's not up to me to chase anybody down and tell them about it. I'm just going to go ahead. And if they want to ask me something, I'll talk to them very happily, but I'm not going to spend any extra time trying to do something that is working like an uphill battle.
Thank you for mirroring that to me, because that's how I brought it up. Because I love the reinforcement of, it's not that I don't believe it or don't see it, just from within my own consciousness. It's just always wonderful to reflect that with each other, and it does strengthen us.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think it's very empowering to just be able to have conversations like this.
It sure is. I value it very much.
There's so many people that we can't talk to.
Right.
And really, they just have no idea.
Right.
What we're even talking about or doing.
It's easier to judge it, and just use the knee-jerk programming and conditioning to just say, oh, that crazy woman who believes in, that ETs have been visiting her, and, whatever the programmed story is that they, were that was placed in their consciousness through media or whatever. It's like, no, that's not it. I'm not sure how to explain it to you if you're stuck on that story.
Right.
Yeah, but the word that they used and showed me in my mind's eye was, the words that they used was no more reaching back into the old density. No more. And they even showed me the image of me like stretching and reaching. Let me explain it. Let me try, and they said, nope, done. That's done.
And they kind of said to me, just, okay, you're not going back anymore.
Right.
And in a way I thought, well, that could be like, meaning I won't have any connection with anybody. But all they really meant by that was just stop going in there and trying to, do what we're talking about.
And change the energy within me to where I'm like, okay, I'm receiving now.
Yeah.
I'm in receiving mode. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I do, I have my soul weaving sessions. I'm available. I put it out there that I'm available. That's growing. since I did say yes, okay, I see this, and I'm willing to embrace this new energy now, and welcome people into
Yes.
my world, my experience, my support, my offering of guiding people into this self-evolution, self-empowerment way to step into this new reality.
Mm-hmm. And, I think we are supposed to, go and explore and see what's there and then share. It's
Yes.
like adventures, and then we come back and we share the experience, and other people can go, okay, I want to have that experience too. How do I do that? And that's what's been powerful for me, is just doing things and then sharing what happens.
Yes.
And,
yes.
I had a funny thing one day where it was like Saturday late afternoon. I realized I was out of cat food, and that would be not good for my cat. And so I thought, oh no, I have to go to the pet store to get some cat food. And, it's one of those chain stores. And they had an event there, I knew that day. And I thought, oh no, they're not going to have cat food. And plus, the place is going to have all kinds of people there. So I was kind of starting that little thing in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wait a minute. Okay, I know how to fix this. And I just got in my car and I'm driving to the pet store. And I said, okay, I'm going to clear it out. I just need 5 minutes. I'm restocking the shelves and I'm going to get what I need and then come home. And now, in the past, I've gone and they've been out of the food that I buy. So I went in the store. The store was deserted, not even an employee. I went back to the cat food area and they had just restocked. I mean, the shelves were full. The little cart they were using was there, and I got my food. And then I said, well, I do need an employee to, and out came this one manager who kind of knows me a little bit just from going in there. And he said, I don't know what happened. He said, this place was jam packed and it just emptied out. And I said, I did that. I said, as soon as I leave, everybody can come back. I said, I just needed a few minutes to get my cat food. And he just laughed.
Yeah.
And he's been very intrigued.
Yeah.
And so when people realize what's possible,
yes,
then they get very interested in how do I make that happen?
Right.
And then we can talk to them.
Right. Years ago when I first started bringing these messages through, they said, no more teachers, just demonstrators now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like, yes, we're teaching, but you teach through demonstrating it.
Right. And I kind of refer to that as leadership. I just say we're moving into leadership where we are showing people a new way of being. We're not telling them, we're just showing them by being this new way.
Well, yeah. And as an experiencer, the direct actual experience that changes the consciousness. This is, I try to share this as often as I can with clients or with groups. It's, this is, I'm not just standing here talking about, look how cool it is to be an experiencer. Look at what we have to teach you. Look at, it's about, look who we are. Look who we are becoming. We are remembering. We are reconnecting with that natural state, that whole state that, we get to practice and embody. And let's do this together. Let's do this with consciousness and community. And it takes time, though, for people to re-identify or reorient to adding the energetic or subtle energies, the feeling of it that they've been as we talked earlier, programmed to dismiss from their consciousness.
Right. And I think a lot of times people have to reach a place where things aren't working very well. And they're not
absolutely. Yeah.
And so once they're not very happy, and maybe things are starting to fall apart for them, then they realize they have an option or some choices to change that. So that's a powerful motivator.
It sure is.
You know, you've tried to get the whole dream, everything, the American dream, I'll just call it. You've tried to get those things and then it's not working.
Right.
Some aspect of it. And that usually leads you into a place of starting to ask questions of, why, what's going on.
Right. And just, and I keep being shown, and I have been for years, that this is the deciding time, where we all choose.
Yes.
What do I identify with? And basically, it always boils down to that same old, cliche, but yet so true and powerful, love or fear. The choice is love or fear. Do you even, do you even understand what fear is? What is fear and what is love? What does love feel like? What does fear feel like? It's a feeling level. It's an experiential level. So that's how we choose at this crossroads in time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've told a lot of people, I just say, when you get a choice, just say yes. Say yes, you'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you want to be on the new earth, because I do also feel that we've come to a choice point.
Yeah.
We will be asked in some way, what are you choosing? And are you choosing love?
Yeah. And they also showed me that, as people, referring back to what you said a few minutes ago about things have to get uncomfortable for people to really pay attention. And I've been shown that it's kind of like people are going to get pressed inward more and more and more as it gets crazier and weirder and what is happening? Nothing makes sense. And it's because people are awakening and they are returning to their empowered state. What that does to the outer world is throw it way wacko.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody thinks it's just the world has lost its mind. It's about as wacko as it can be.
Yeah. So I tell people, I share with people, hey, get used to those markers within that define you, that you can find and you can say, this is who I am in frequency. The weirder it gets out there, the more we need these feeling markers and to know how to connect with all that is, creator, guides, what have you. People need to know that they can access that, in a very short period of time.
Right. Yeah. And I just tell people, create your own sacred space, your own peaceful place.
Yeah.
Your home where you can be, and then just don't take part in that craziness that's there.
Right. And continue doing the inner work, the shadow work, whatever you want to call it, to where you're willing to say, hey, I realize I collected a lot of crap along the way that doesn't resonate with who I actually am, and I'm willing to let that go. And have you found too that it can go so rapidly now when you talk to clients, and it's
really quickly.
It's fast now. It isn't. Yeah. And I think sometimes people hesitate to start on a path because it's like, I don't really have time to do this for years. It's like, it's not years.
Yeah.
Show up in the
It's
moment.
going very fast. I've had
Yeah.
people say to me, they've gotten more from me in one session, 1 hour session, than going to a therapist for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just seeing there's a willingness in people in their soul to just let it go.
Yeah. There is.
Then I'm seeing a lot of this second wave awakening now that, Dolores Cannon talked about the 3 waves, and the second wave, people that are 30s and 40s, they often don't have the same level of, crap in them that,
Right.
that, people in their 50s and 60s had, or it's just really interesting. And some of the younger people, they don't have anything. They're very pure, actually. But they just have to learn that there is another option for them, because they've also, been schooled in the whole old system.
Right. But they aren't as susceptible to getting pulled into the programming and to the thickness as we were. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. We took it into our bodies.
We did. Yeah. It was like, this is reality. Boom. Live with it. But they're not. They come in with more awareness that this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And one of the things related to this topic, because I love the young people, and I've been around them quite a bit, and so I feel like I'm more like them. I'm like this silver-haired millennial at this point, because I relate to them more than I do my own generation. But anyway, one of the messages that came through, back in 2006 or 7, that I did add to my book was, it's crucial that the older generations take responsibility for, where they got sidetracked, and bring themselves back to center, bring themselves back to the truth, and this is vital in order to keep the young people interested in staying on this world, and to offer their gifts. So they need us to step up and do this. We can't just sit back and go, well, we screwed up. Sorry. Can you guys fix it? It's...
Well, I think we all have to work together.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anybody who's willing can start.
Yes.
And I think people often want to know what they can do.
Well, what would you say they can do?
Well, I think working with energy in whatever form you're guided for, the highest good. And one thing maybe a year ago that I was shown to do was to start using overlays. And those are just energetic structures that you put over anything that's not working. If you see a system or any whatever in the old world, you just put this new picture on top of it. And I just saw another Ascension teacher mention this just within the last couple of days. So I think it's going to be coming more into the our usage. But that's something you can do once you kind of have an understanding that it works.
Yeah, it's interesting because I relate to that, but the way that I'm always that I'm pointed to is, yes, there are these systems, and then in our mind we have this rejection of it, like that's, it's all corrupt, or it's all this or all that. We make our judgments, and then we just kind of feed it to continue to be that. So I like your overlay inspiration, and it matches what I was shown in that it showed me here's how many people are in that institution right now
Mm-hmm.
who are, aware and awake
Right.
and recreating it. And so that is, I feel, energetically, that's the same thing that you just said. It's an overlay of
Mm-hmm.
there's more going on in a just turn your head slightly to see a different view, and oh, look at all those people working in that institution who are planting the seeds or doing the work, and that's happening simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah, and I think people are bringing in new information and starting to share. We're becoming more aware so that we can see a lot of the things that we were taught are simply not true, and we have to change them. And it can be really overwhelming to see how much negativity was put into our environments.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like how challenging that must be at this stage for somebody to just now go, oh, it's none of it's really real, or look, it's all a lie, or you know,
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, we've had years and years and years to go, oh, this isn't true. That's not, and to use our instinct and discernment, that we have, adapted to and integrated into our lives over the course of this contact and upgrades and evolution. But I'm not saying it's not possible, but what an interesting place to be for some people who have resisted until now.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I know some who still
Yeah,
are resisting very actively. And I just kind of, I mean, all we can do is let them be in that
for
space
sure. Yeah.
until they don't want to be in that space anymore. But I wanted to ask you too, if you feel you're actively creating the new earth, or if that's a part of the information you've been given, or how that looks for
Yes.
you.
Oh, thank you for asking. Yes. My soul weaving sessions, I don't know how it works, and I'm sure you can relate to this. I don't know how I know these things,
Oh, yeah.
but it's delivered to me, and it's answering the question. Okay, so here you are. You've arrived here, and we're in this space where we're having this conversation, and that was then. This is now. And here's what your soul, or greater essence, whatever you want to call it, had intended for you in this crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever aspects, basically what starts to happen is there's a here's who you are
Right.
picture.
Yeah.
Here's who you actually are. And then it'll show me times, specific things in their lives that where that was touched upon, or and it speaks very poetically and very it's like art, these images and feelings that come, and then I'm the translator for it. It's translating art really, and about who they are, and then to just give them that feeling, so that they can start to resonate with that again. And usually there's quite the enlivening of,
Yes.
oh, yeah, I remember that. Or, it's
Yeah.
like, this is who you are, and
Uh-huh.
it's possible to bring this in now. And it's not only possible, it's what you intended, and it's what you can contribute, your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and your grounded, anchored power in this time.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm very much a part of that work in which you are doing as well.
Yeah. And again, like you said, somehow when you tune into their energy, you can see what's there,
Yes.
and you can see what wants to come through, what wants to be shared, what they're ready to release, all of that.
Right. And still where the hanging on are the blocks. Yeah. But
Yeah.
and it's not like that's not the heavy, it's not heavy at all. It's just like, oh, here's this, and it's like, again, it's like poetic. Here's where the energy isn't moving.
Right. I
Here,
think
yeah.
you use the word enlivening. I find that people are very enlivened
Yeah.
by the experience of that.
Yeah, and I'm finding, and I ask you this question too, do you find that the people that end up coming to you are absolutely moving into this new world? It's like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
very rarely do I get somebody who's like, well, no, I'm not sure
No.
if you're going to make this trek. I don't know. I don't ever feel that.
No. And I've had people come who they'll say, I'm not even sure why I'm here.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I'll say, well, let's just see what there is. And it's always somebody who's ready,
Yes.
who's been guided or directed to come. And generally, when they come to me, I don't advertise per se,
Mm-hmm.
So if they find out about me and come to me, it's because they are ready. And, I was just at a dinner, like 6 months ago, and, 6 people there. There was a woman I did not know, a young woman. And just in the conversation, I don't even know what got said, but she looked at me and she said, do you work with people privately? And I said, I do. And she said, I'm coming to see you.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And then she just recently told me that I changed her life.
Yep.
And she wants everyone she knows to come see me.
Yeah.
She saw something, and I was thinking, what did she see? But she, I think her soul saw something and read it for her.
Yes.
Because people are becoming also more open and more able to see things.
Yes, they are.
About who everyone is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think too, we're just going to be kind of connected up or linked up now with people, where we haven't been so much in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to start happening.
It is. And one thing I want to, before we close, we don't really have to hurry to close. I'm just saying I want to make sure I get this in. We didn't even talk about ETs and spaceships and anything dramatic in that way.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the purpose, my inspiration for doing this particular series of talks, is I want to talk to experiencers about who are you now? What, yeah, that happened and that was weird and yeah, exciting and strange, but it's not about that.
Right.
Anymore.
Right.
You and I are both lifetime contactees, and I'm not sure how that factors in, compared to people who have just recently had experiences. I have no right to make a judgment or assessment about anybody else's kind of contact. There's a whole wide variety of it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm wanting to zero in on here is evolution. And how we are being changed and, essentially grown into this time period where we can be of service to others who are coming to this threshold of, consciousness. So I want to go back briefly. We're not going to talk about, how it all happened again, because people can go back to I'll make sure that the link is there for the Vimeo interview from 2014 with you. for reference because we talk about those things more
Mm-hmm.
then. But one of the common things that I remember getting excited about was, that same moment in time when you're a child and these beings are like leaving
Yeah.
and you're going, but wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just that, and I think just that sense of abandonment, sort of, like it has to have a kind of a traumatic effect on us to feel so connected and then have that sense of connection go away for a while.
Yes.
But I just want to share that I see the absolute necessity of how it all unfolded. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But the up and down kinds of pain of an experiencer, to be so connected to it and, oh my God, this is amazing, this is who I am, da, 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 and then plummet back down into the density and and then you have to find it within yourself, and it's so perfect. Isn't it
Yep.
a great dance? I mean, if you would have talked to me 20 years ago, I would have said, screw this dance. This
Yeah.
is hard. This is really, really hard. And, that was when I'd go in and out of this suicidal kind of, thinking like, I don't think I can do this. So, I guess I just wanted to touch on that and maybe get kind of your feeling impressions of the overall journey from childhood to now. And, it a lot of times we are described as, oh, they're the love and light experiencers, and we're just like dismissed, like, oh, they're just all airy fairy.
Uh,
Talk to me, Terry,
mhm.
about how hard this is and how beautiful it is and blissful it is, but help me explain to people who call us love and light experiencers. Help me to explain that to them.
Okay. I don't know that I've heard anyone call me that, but I totally know what you're talking about. And to really have, you know, experience the sense of connection and the sense of this absolute love, and then to lose that, and then to go through lots of painful experiences in this life. I mean, certainly, you know, we've all been through things that we would probably not want to choose for ourselves.
Right.
And I've had lots of things that were very, very challenging at the time. And as I look back on them now, everything seems perfect to me because everything helped me to move to a new space and to begin to see things in a different way. And I can look back and really appreciate some of the things I had to go through. Although I wish it hadn't taken so long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would love to see it go a lot faster.
Patience is a tough one, huh? In this
It is.
kind of a life. Yeah.
But you know, I've kind of wondered why some of us did have so many experiences, and other people have told me they have had none, which I think that would be very sad because, you know, the experiences I've had, I just would not trade for anything.
Same here. And I guess if I were to, as you were talking, it helped me to see something from a different angle. In the way that I would add to that explanation to people who have described. See, I'm in a couple different experiencer groups online.
Right. And I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of exposure now to experience, the wide variety of experiencers, and just the differences, and it's a beautiful thing. But I've been referred to as a love and light experiencer. And I didn't even know that was a thing, until I was in this group.
And tell me how would you define that?
If you speak, first of all, if you channel or you translate frequency, which is how I like to share it, and you talk about love, and you talk about this connection to, this overwhelming, beautiful connection to these beings. And, if you speak a little bit too much in that direction, then you're not, you don't know about the bad stuff. You're ignoring the bad stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that automatic projection, with no knowledge of what kind of a life I or others in this category have lived. And so what I wanted to add to our conversation is, I have done this dance throughout my life of extreme unifying connection with full, just speaking of the Kundalini of it, which the Mayan term for it is Koyopa.
Right.
And you can't there's no words. It's ridiculous to even try and put it into words, but it's love. I would say if I had to pick one word, it's love. Mm-hmm. And a feeling of interconnectedness with all, oneness. And then try being in that and then plummeting to the depths of despair because I can't, how do I find this? Where do I get it? How do I bring it back? And you think of it, you think it's other, you think it's, God, it's, and it is, it's light, it's love. But because we project, we've been taught we're disconnected from our connectedness. So that when we project that's something big and grand and not us. And so the whole lifetime has been coming to the realization, this full integration, well, not full, it's always in process, of, yes, I am that love and that bliss and joy, and however we explain it in the love and light way. Mm-hmm. And I've also been through the darkest nights of the soul. I can't even put that into words too. So it's a bridging. What's occurring is this integration. And I'm sorry to the people who haven't felt this enormous bliss. And then there are some people who say that's just overlays or implants from the ETs of these, or screen memories, that love is a screen memory. No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I think also, because I know there are some people who focus more on clearing the darker energies and working with some of that. I think we have different assignments here.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what I've been told from the beginning of this process for me was, I'm here to share about love, and I'm here to inspire.
Yes.
And so that's really what I have to do. And, when they first told me I was here to share about love, I'm like, what? I mean, it's very hard to share about love in a world where love is broken and people are very suspicious of love.
Or love is defined as February 14th.
Yeah. Well, all of it, it's all incorrect. And I had one friend, he said, I wouldn't even be talking about that if I were you. But it's what I was told to do. And because, like you said, I was given an experience of having that connection with my original family from the stars, of that intense, pure love.
Yes.
There's nothing like it
Nothing like it.
on this planet.
Right.
But I have the memory in me
Yes.
of that.
On a cellular level.
Yes, and I had the experience of it since I've been in this body. And that's where I want everybody to go. And that's part of my assignment is, pave that road.
Yes. And you're doing a beautiful job.
Oh, well, thank you. And I mean, so are you. And I just am seeing lots of things. I think the more, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And I think the more that you can get conversations out there and make them available and people can, hear them. One thing I do like to talk to people about is, do you have any kind of experience that you've had that you really haven't shared with the energy of the other side? And I even thought at one point I was going to do a book about that, but I've collected stories of almost everybody has had one of those experiences.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this one woman I asked, she said, well, okay, I'll share this. I've never told anyone this. She said, I have a memory. Before I came to Earth, I was way, way, way out there, and I was with this being made of light. And he pointed to the Earth, and he said, that's where you're going. So, she really, she's never really done a whole lot with this, but she has that memory in her.
And it's important, to one of the reasons we even do what we're doing here in a more vocal platform is because obviously the more honest we are, the more these things are going to come to the surface and they're going to be shared. And then we're going to go, oh, this is the truth.
Yes. And so the more we put the truth out there and the more people have access to it, and the more they can say that this is working for me, this kind of truth, then that's where, it's all going to just roll into this new way of relating to each other and, being done with the whole old patriarchal baloney.
Yeah. It didn't work, did it?
No, it didn't. So,
well, and of course it's not then hopping over to the matriarchy. It's let's bring this divine feminine sacred energy back into our body and being and balance out our consciousness and be on with it. Yeah.
And balance the whole thing and just to, live from the wholeness.
The wholeness of that, right. The marriage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can you talk a little bit about where people can find you and what you're involved in now?
Well, they can find me online. I write a blog, New Earth Experiences, and it's just my name.org, terryandrews.org.
Okay, great.
So I really have transferred my website over to this blog, and I'm still in the process of putting the last elements on there. But I've been writing that for about 3 years, and I just share experiences that happened to me, and then just share the information that I'm getting about what we're doing in of coming into this new space of really being able to work co-creatively and hanging out in that space of truth and love. That's been my focus, to just help to create that whole space of New Earth here so that it's very real, and that anybody who wishes to choose that can make that choice.
Beautiful. And we have arrived. We are here. There's no more waiting.
Yeah, we have arrived. Yeah. And, it's just trusting and believing and giving up the fear and yeah. And it's also just beginning to do it, believe it, and make it real by just living it.
Right.
It's,
And
you
it's
know,
easier than we think.
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
we overthink things. We're so used to, if we learn how to be in the present moment where all of this is accessed,
Hmm.
um, or the more that we can bring our consciousness back to the present, this is where we access all the information we need.
Yes.
And it's
Yep.
nice to have these sessions with coaches who have actually been through these experiences of integration. So I support you in your work, Terry, and I just want to say that this is the kind of support that has enormous value now. We're not trying to follow what it says in textbooks about how to be a human being.
Is that one of those textbooks?
I just That's the way it feels to me from my past. Like, wait, how
Yeah.
am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
Oh, this psychologist says this and that. And I'm
Okay.
not knocking psychology. I'm
Yeah.
just
No,
saying,
I looked for answers for years and years and
right,
years
in what exists. Yeah. Yeah,
in the books that were
right.
out there, and basically couldn't find anything until I kind of got launched into this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were all the answers. And I often have people say to me, "Is there some kind of guidebook that
Yeah.
that we should have to use for this?"
Well, what I tell people is go find an experiencer who's coaching because they
Yeah.
have the maps within themselves.
Yes. Oh,
And
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they can help
Hmm.
guide you through
Right.
this very strange time. Because
Yeah.
imagine being in this place of awareness of, wait, things aren't what I thought they were, back in a time when everybody agreed that that was reality.
Yes.
And the experiencers were going, uh-oh, what do I do? How do I be here? Because this isn't real. This isn't true. And
Yeah.
then obviously they send you to an institution depending on the decade, that you were in.
Hmm.
Or they, put you away, or addictions occur, and that sometime.
Or you just remain quiet about it
Right. Yeah, exactly.
because it's
So
not safe to
do
really talk.
you, yeah, do you realize that we could talk for 6 hours? And
I think we could. Yeah.
yeah, I want to like put it out there too that I want to have a series of these talks with you. I'd like to invite you back and to
That's
just
lovely.
continue to stay connected and check in with what's happening, like we just did. Like, what is this about? How do we do this? And well, here's what I learned and here's what I'm doing. Um, and it helps me. It helps strengthen me
Yeah.
and
And
inspire
maybe
me.
there would be a way that even people could ask questions or send things they would like to have discussed.
Yeah, I did put on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Eileen Meyer. I did include that as a Q&A that will happen with,
Okay.
different guests. So that is definitely something that's on the table.
And I think probably a lot of people don't realize, and I don't know what the situation is for you, but it's a full-time job.
It is.
Like, this is all I do.
Yes.
And I do it, more than full-time. I probably do
Right.
two full-time jobs.
I understand. Yeah.
Right.
I want to make sure that these other reference points are available for people so that they can go, okay, it's
I
real.
think that takes courage. It
Mm-hmm.
takes courage and it takes, dedication
Yep.
and lots of love of yourself to go into that space,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
be willing to do, what you're doing.
Well, like you said, we all have our, kind of our mission or our,
Mm-hmm.
what lights us on fire, and for a lot of us, it's been suppressed. But it's there. And like we were talking about when we do these sessions, we can feel who this person is, and we can help enliven that again and say, hey, this is real. We're here to tell you this is real, and you can move in this direction. So I love that you're joining me in this mission.
Yeah, it's really, really fun to talk to you, and it's just fun to have, another being that it understands.
Yes.
And has been through the same thing.
I treasure that too. Thank you. And you're just one state below me now.
I know.
Isn't that great? We're not that far away from each other now.
I know.
We might have to do a road trip sometime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That would be fun.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Terry, for having this wonderful discussion again. And when I post this, I will I'll actually add the link to the one from 5 years ago, because it's an interesting reference point, I feel.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's do it again.
Okay. I look forward to that.
Okay. Take care. Thank you, Terry.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.